believe I just hit the record button. So welcome everybody to the Arkana Integration Mastermind. Once again, my name is Dr. JC Dornick, otherwise known as the Dragon. I'm a friend of Arkana. I've been on several experiences with Arkana, and I just want the world to have access to this amazing thing that so much of us share in common, but specifically in a very, very, I guess, just to tease the topic today, ceremonious way to direct people's focus and attention to an experience that really does it right, you know? So like I said, that's who I am. We've got the amazing Billy, who has, been a facilitator for Arcana for a long, long time. But now he's leveled up and he's, one of the chief Dharma officers of Arcana, and you're going to hear from him in a second. And the purpose of this is in a mastermind format with the intention of continuing the integration process. For those of you that have been to, a retreat of sorts, you've gained access to some information that very often when we go home is very, very challenging to figure out, like, how do I integrate this into my life, right? I see a couple of head nods there. And that's the integration process. And what makes Arcana unique, because I play around in other sandboxes every now and then just to see, because we're always open and curious to learning what we can do better. I think one of the reasons that I really love Jose, Billy, and Arcana is they really go the extra mile to make sure that you have access and opportunity and increased potential to make this stuff stick, right? Rather than what appears to be a bunch of people saying, I don't know, do I have to go on another trip? Should I go on like 12 more trips before I finally get it? And stuff like that. So that's the purpose of this mastermind. So we're going to stimulate the mastermind, which is what kind of my role is, with a topic. And this will probably end up being a podcast episode of mine. But Billy chose a really interesting topic of discussion today, which we'll carry on. And it's the idea of the word ceremony. So I took some time to really unpack that word, which is something I love to do, and how it correlates to our experience and the integration process. So I'm going to share that with you. But lastly, whether you're here with us live or watching this as a recording, which is a strange thing to talk about because that's happening at a different time, right? But it's your first time, we welcome you. And, welcome you to this psychological safe haven, this judgment-free zone where we can entertain this world within a world that a lot of people have access to and you're thinking about. So welcome. And if you have any questions, just reach out to people like Billy and Valeria and the folks at Arcana, and you'll get those questions answered. So I want to talk about the ceremony of presence. And I was thinking about this idea of observing life's hidden insights in this ceremonious way. So here's what I got. I'm going to share a little 5-minute thing with you. Ceremony is a sacred container, an intentional space where we allow ourselves to deeply observe, reflect, and receive in that container. When working with plant medicine, this ceremony becomes a doorway. Ooh, I love that word. This ceremony becomes a doorway, offering us access to profound insights. Those of you that have been understand that, as well as visions and emotions that are often hidden in the noise of everyday life. And I think that anybody that's been to the ceremony understands what that means to unveil something that, whether you thought it was there or not, information or something that was otherwise hidden by the noise of everyday life. A lot of noise in life, isn't there? Makes integration challenging. So these moments, whether subtle or profound during ceremony, can shift our understanding forever of ourselves and our place in the world. Can I get a head nod on that? So, how do we live ceremoniously in everyday life? Because that would be the challenge. If you understand what it means to live ceremoniously in the medicine, right, and experience some of these things I just said, I think the real challenge would be, well, how can we live ceremoniously in life, especially during this time of the year? Billy will share a little more on that. So, in the same way, living consciously, it's a very popular topic, in the present moment can become its own ceremony. Think about that for a second. When we carefully are observant, which is what it means to live consciously, we begin to notice the small yet profound details in our lives. The way that our breath grounds us. How many times have you heard Billy say, relax and enjoy your breath? Maybe that's what he was teaching us, right? The earth that seems to be holding us up from falling. Anybody ever notice that? That the earth is preventing us from falling forever. The slow and subtle changes of nature that seem to be teaching us how to navigate change in our own life experience, as well as our interconnectedness with one another. It's almost as if the medicine, which very often is called a teacher, like a guide, it's almost as if the medicine takes our hand in ceremony and shows us these insights that are actually omnipresent, meaning they're always there. You just didn't know, hidden in the noise. So we just got busy, and this is the challenge with integration, is that we get busy living in our future, in our past, and fail to take notice of where reality actually lives. Right here, in the now. What's up, Michael? Your hair's getting long, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the role of ceremony as a practice of observation. Because what's interesting about observation, whether you're observing the world around you or your thoughts and feelings in your mind, things don't really exist without observation. So we might want to take note of our observation. Ceremony is about intention and attention. When we sit in the medicine, for those of you that have, we're invited to observe. Isn't that an interesting way of looking at it? You're invited. You can accept or deny the invitation. Well, not on Sapo. Right? You don't really have to look there. But we're invited to observe and listen carefully to these visions, feelings, and messages. And where are those things taking place when we're invited? One place, and that's the present moment. So the sacred intention behind that, what it does is it opens the door to truths that we might otherwise have overlooked. Once again, ceremoniously taking our attention very, very carefully and looking at things that we otherwise would overlook. So think about it at the Arkana experience or at any experience if it's done right. When you debrief, having one of those delicious apples. Anybody miss those apples? I mean, I've never had an apple as good as the apple that I had after ceremony ever. But when we debrief, think about the question that you're asking of yourself and asking of others. What did I notice when I let myself truly see? Back to the ceremonious idea. What I saw, what I felt, and what I experienced in this ceremony. It's almost as if this conscious present time observation becomes some sort of an invitation or a bridge to this thing that we call integration. Does that make sense? So the insights that we gain in ceremony don't automatically integrate into our daily lives, do they? That's what I mean. It's a bridge, it's an invitation. It requires a second layer of some sort of augmented observation, right? And there's that consciousness component, present time consciousness, like we found when we're in the medicine. So it's like it's an interesting way of looking at things. So with the help and practice of things that are not found necessarily only in the jungle or at a retreat, like meditation, yoga, breath work, and even the practice of gratitude, we find our way to that space where these insights live. Has anyone here had an experience practicing anything like yoga, breath work, meditation, or extreme present time gratitude, where you get a flicker or a flare or a flashback of something that looks familiar from your experience? Anyone? I think the answer is probably yes. So some people at times feel like they're having some sort of a flashback or a relapse of something. Maybe they're just in that moment, living in the present moment where those things always live, with or without medicine. So I find my way there every morning myself when I do my meditation. It's like I'm very, very familiar with the land of Sapo and all of that stuff. But I wonder if I would ever know to recognize it had I not done the medicine. I don't know if I would know what it was. So this integration that we're all seeking here as we come to the end, it happens when we give the same level. This is the key, because Billy's going to share a little bit about this time of the year and also maybe looking at next year in our own way. But this integration that we seek happens when we give the same level of ceremonious reverence. That's a jotter downer, maybe. Ceremonious reverence to the life outside the ceremony as we did while we were in it. The same intention and openness and curiosity and willingness. If you think about it, being in things cannot exist without knowing what it's like to being out of things. So if you ever find yourself offline and out, it's just as important as in. You wouldn't recognize in without out. I like that. So like you and I, they are all connected as one, all of these things. So the ongoing ceremony of life, right? There's tools for it. They arm and equip us with the P's for integration, but also this is a tool as well. I wrote this: when we treat each moment as sacred, and that's one of the things I love about Billy and Valeria, is they really talk about that a lot. When we treat every moment as sacred, like this moment right now that we're all together for whatever reason, life itself becomes a ceremony, doesn't it? Easier said than done, but much better done than said. So I'm gonna open the floor now, and maybe Billy could have some insights that are welling up. Um, but the most important thing is that we hear from everyone that is open and willing to share, um, because there's a lot at stake. Because it's not just our own experience, it's those around us, and it's the collective that gets enhanced when we learn to live our life ceremoniously. So, Billy,
My
let's have some
my
fun.
yeah, my brain's in like overload with all the stuff you're saying.
I'll put the notes in the email.
But to sutrify, which Jose always tells me to do, is that's really the point, is how do you not how do you take the ceremony or your intention and the reverence you have for a ceremony for medicine in the plant medicine space and turn your life into a ceremony, living with intention, living with reverence, living in the sacred container, as you put it, of the earth as your sacred container, and finding medicine in everything, good and bad, as a teacher. Um, Good things are teachers, bad things are teachers, everything's a teacher. And all the teachers in all the books and all the medicines are teaching you how to return to love within yourself and share that love in service to others. And yeah, live in love, express love, live from love, do the best you can. So you covered so many different things that really, for me, all I want to say is about
Well, let
just
me
making it
direct you.
every
I'll
day.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll direct your focus because so that this doesn't turn into a 5 hour conversation, which would be fun too. Um, you were mentioning to me a little bit about the correlation of, the time of the year,
Mm.
right? Because a lot of people are being drawn to just their regularly scheduled program. A lot of people are going to take the blue pill and just allow things to, put the keys of trust into life and just see how things unfold. But the red pill, which you all took when you went to retreat, um, you opened yourself to curiosity and what else is out there, and you saw something. So, Billy, what I'd love to discuss and then maybe open up on that is what's the relevance of this idea of living ceremoniously now, but also as we look forward to the year?
And now, and for the rest of this year and going into New Year is so so recently Valeria's been teaching me various different sadhanas or japa practices. And the idea of doing japa, for example, which is basically like you can use a mala and you do like a repetitive mantra is and if you do with meditation, you basically set your energy, frequency, and vibration for your sleep time if you do it at night. And if you do it in the morning, you set your energy, frequency, and vibration for the day. So, for example, if I was to do a japa for Lakshmi, then and I was to repeat this day and night, I would be setting the vibration of my day and night, because you have consciousness in both, to the frequency of abundance. And then as I harmonize with that, I attract that into my life. Okay, so take that on the daily level. The When I was thinking about this, I started thinking on the yearly level. What is your japa practice for the beginning of the year? And we're coming to the beginning of the year. So I thought about how what usually people do, many people, is they go out and they get drunk or they drink with their friends and they're going to say, New Year, new me. And then they're going to set the first day of the new year with a hangover, which is like the new you, you're setting a vibration for your whole year as like a little bit hungover. So you're going to live your whole year hungover. And then the following year, you're going to say, New Year, new me. And then you'll probably do the same thing. So the invitation for this year is to really think about like, how are you celebrating Christmas and New Year? How are you treating them as a ceremony? So what intention are you going with? And what reverence and respect are you treating these moments of rebirth and regrowth? And how are you going into this new year, 2025, and setting your energy, frequency, and vibration for the whole year? And you can do this um, with your New Year's ceremony and your Christmas ceremony, which is really about family. And just lastly, before I stop talking and everybody else who I'm really eager to hear, I just want to say um, I see all of you. I know most of you, and this is a pleasure and beautiful. So thank you, and lots of love to all of you for Christmas and New Year. I'll stop.
Beautiful. So now would be the time to self-reflect and take whatever it is that's mulling around in your gut, your heart, and inside, and just share what it means in connection with this. The thing about this conversation that Billy and I liked the most when we looked up the definition for ceremony was this idea of it being a time of careful observation. That was one of the things that we loved. So we'd love to hear from you guys. So who would like to share something? This is by the way, we just noticed this is our last gathering, which we've been doing for a while, of 2024. So who'd like to share something on any level? I had a feeling it was going to be you. I was like, she's going to say something. I can say, go for it.
We've never met, but I think the vibes are strong. So thank you. Um, it's good to meet many of you for the first time. It's good to see some familiar faces. Um, Much love back to you, Billy. I've been thinking about you since the retreat and TC. It's good to see you always. Um, my retreat was recent, November 3rd. So and before that, I had never had any experience with plant medicine. I had had traditional therapies, talk therapies mostly, EMDR, things like that. And in reflection of the question for today, I realized that my intention has not changed since my intention going into ceremony on November, the first week of November. Um, my intention was to open my heart. I came to Arkana very closed off to other people. My love for nature, my love for animals was still there, but I couldn't understand why I couldn't feel that same love for other human beings. I think a lot of that stemmed from my pain and just not understanding or connecting with that pain and that hurt. My experience at Arcana was all about my inner child and meeting my inner child in ceremony and playing with her. So I came out feeling happy, joyful, childlike. It was beautiful. It lasted about 2 weeks and then life set in. But I feel the intention of keeping my heart open and keeping um, that vision of being able to embrace other people without fear, without carrying the pain that I felt before into those relationships is still very much alive. Life kicks in, but I found myself after ceremony seeing the lessons, being more compassionate to myself and to other people. But man, is it still hard. I trip and fall on my face almost every day. Things like dreams are coming up still, especially when I sleep, and they bring up emotions. And I started to label my emotions every week. This past week, the flavor of the week was resentment. So, just trying to learn how to tap into the ceremony space to understand consciously what that is bringing up for me, purging. I still burp a lot. I mean, however embarrassing that sounds, I try to burp it out. I try to do what I learned in the yoga sessions of, like beating myself almost to release the energy, as Manuel taught us so well. So, yeah, that's what I have to share. Thank you for listening. I'm glad to be in this space with you.
I think burping is totally normal in this room. Billy, one of the things that Swati said, am I pronouncing your name right?
Swati or Swathi? Swathi is
Swati.
the Indian.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful. And you can burp anytime you want. Um, I like the idea, Billy, of we hear this so often in this realm, this idea of it lasted for 2 weeks and then life set in, um, as if life was never supposed to settle back in, right? So the first question I asked is if we were living present time and ceremoniously, would life settle back in? Of course it would, right? But perhaps living ceremoniously is not that space because life was settled in when you were on ceremony. You just allowed yourself to go be somewhere else, right? And it lasted for 2 weeks. So I'd love to hear your take on that, Billy, because life settling back in it can just be an observation rather than a participation. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things about living ceremoniously is getting rid of this idea that bad things will never come into our perception.
Yeah, and And actually, it's okay because this is life. So everything's going to come, and you got to really embrace it all. And then return to love, which is the whole point. Keep on repeating it. It's actually speaking with Valeria. Um, it's like it's it's actually the hardest thing, especially when you've had such a profound experience, because it's like walking up it's getting to like the top of a mountain, and then as you leave, you come down a little bit, and it's like it goes up and down, up and down. Um, but it's one of the greatest challenges to kind of like stay aligned with the truth that you know. And I'm going to share really quickly a story that I heard recently. I was listening to Swami Satchidananda, and he told this story, which is I could go off all day on his stories. They're genius. But he basically told this story, which is about there's this group of fishermen, and they all set sail to go fishing for the day. And he sees all the fishermen fishing, and he hasn't gone anywhere. And he says to the guy on the boat next to him, he says, like, how come God has blessed all these other fishermen with to take them to the where meet to where the fish are? And the guy says to him, it's because you haven't put up your sail. He says, of course, how can the wind blow me to the fish if I haven't put up my sail? So he puts up the sail and the wind blows into the sail and it doesn't go anywhere. And he says, what's happening? Why is God blessing everybody else but not me? Maybe they bribed him with their offerings. And the guy next to him says, it's because you didn't untie the string, like the docking rope. So you're still attached to the port. So he says, silly me. So he undoes it. And eventually, this goes on. Eventually, he sets sail and the wind blows into the fish and he fills up his nets with the abundance of fish. And the moral of the story that he tells is basically you have to attune yourself daily to allow the divine wind, if you like, but the divine energy to propel you to where you want to go. And why that's important is, like Valeria said about tuning a harp, is because you're going to feel good, you're going to feel bad. Your job is to find daily practices or daily habits or daily actions that are going to allow the divine to flow through you and propel you in the direction that you do want to go, knowing that there are bumps on the road. And eventually you will get there, whether that's an emotion you want to feel, whether it's like a goal you want to achieve, whether it's a language you want to learn, whatever you want to do, create, feel, you will get there if you tune yourself into that on a daily basis, regardless, and knowing that all forms of all emotions and sensations will come. So, but it's a challenge for sure.
I love that. What it just made me realize once again about that careful observation, which is that thing that we love so much about this idea of living ceremoniously. Careful observation would give you the ability to say, oh, I'm feeling a certain way, and recognize that we don't control our feelings. Those are happening below consciousness, right? We only control how we perceive them, process, and respond to our feelings. So living ceremoniously, carefully observing, Swati, whenever you perceive whatever it looks and feels like to have life settle back in, you have the ability to say, oh, hello, life settling back in, saying, I see you, I feel you, I don't like the feeling, but I choose to continue the work. So I like to say that it's easier said than done, but it's very doable if you're willing to put the work in, right? So very, very interesting. I'd love to hear from somebody else. I'm predicting who it's going to be. Let's see if I'm right. Thank you for that. Greer?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay. Sometimes my Zoom doesn't work so well. So, was I who you were predicting?
I'm officially wrong.
Um, so I sort of wanted to address partially what Swati was saying and partially just a little bit of my experience. I know some of you, I have been to Arkana 5 times for those of you that don't know me. Um, and I'm still integrating things from my very first ceremony. So I just wanted to sort of say that by way of anybody that's recently returned. Um, really keep in mind what they tell you, that you will revisit things and that integration is work and it is an ongoing thing, and that you really will find that even years later you might, some people integrate things very quickly it seems, but for some of us it's a slower ongoing thing. And I've had a lot of issues to work through, which is why I keep going back to do the work. Um, but one thing that I've learned, um, finally, maybe, is often my intention now, if I go into a ceremony, I'll have sort of a list of very specific things I want to work on. But then as I go into ceremony, I change my intention to simply accept and observe. And they tell us to surrender. I don't love that word because I have some connotations of violence around it. So I use the word accept for myself instead of surrender. But if you prefer the word surrender, that's fine too. And I've really been trying to integrate that into my life every day. It's not easy, um, but a couple of you heard a story about how my Christmas gift to myself was to rent a dumpster. Because for a couple of years now, I've been trying to get rid of things from my old life. And I won't bore everyone with my story, but I had a traumatic couple of years and ended up with a lot of stuff in my house that I really didn't want and really was all negative stuff. And I was having a really hard time dealing with it because I didn't want to deal with all the negative stuff. I just didn't want to deal with it, but it was sitting in my house kind of driving me crazy. And so finally I was like, why are you like, what, you have power to do something about this. And it was like, okay, like, um trying not to insult myself, but I felt really dumb. Like, why have I been sitting with this stuff? And I needed to, for various reasons. I realized I had to accept some things about that stuff, and I needed to sit with it for a while. But I rented this dumpster, and I actually made that like a whole ceremony, like going through everything and purging stuff. I tried to donate a lot of stuff, but I also realized there was some stuff that I literally needed to destroy. I don't like being wasteful, but I made that kind of a ceremony too. Like, this is something from my old life. I don't need it. I don't want it. It has bad energy. It's going in the garbage, literally. And then when they came to take the dumpster away, I literally watched it and I was so happy and felt so free. And so I just wanted to tell that story because I think sometimes we forget that ceremony can also be something other than yoga or breath work, or, it can be something as strange as literally throwing stuff away. That's a form of purging, literally. And you can make that a ceremony as well. So, sometimes I forget that these other things in life can become ceremony. It doesn't have to be going to church or something sacred like that, or it doesn't have to be breath work and yoga and that kind of stuff. It can literally be our everyday life. It could be getting into your car. I also try to make going to bed a ceremony. I smudge my room, I light incense, I use some agua de Florida. Like, I try to make that, like, the act of going to bed, into a ceremony as well. So I just wanted to mention that it doesn't have to be these things that we think of as ceremonial things. It can be really almost anything.
I love that. I want to share with you something really quickly if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it fast enough. Um, I think anyway, I flicked through this book, that Valeria has. Here it is. And it's a book on Ayurveda. And by the way, I could get into how plant medicine is basically a form of Ayurveda, which is the medicine of, or the science food, but the medicine of plants. But actually, it goes way deeper than that. And in this book, it gives the routine, a daily routine. So, and I'm not going to read you the whole lot, but I'll quickly read you the structure, which is one, wake up early, then say a prayer, wash your face, mouth, and eyes, drink a glass of water, evacuation, which is go to the toilet, clean your teeth and tongue, gargle, nose drops, oil massage to your skin, then have a bath, exercise, pranayama, so breathing, meditation, and then breakfast. And going along with going with what Grace said, like it reminded me of that because actually by creating this like just before you go to bed or when you're getting rid of things or for example when you wake up like this, setting the vibration of your day, setting yourself the ceremony of your life in that way each day. At Arkana, for example, we have checklists to prepare for ceremony, and everything goes in a specific order. Everything gets checked. So, and then when we call guests, for example, we call them in a specific order, and then we know to take these, to wash the cups here, to take this there. So everything has its a structure to it, and there's obviously a divine flow instead of surrender. You could use divine flow, I guess. It has a divine flow to it, but it has this structure which creates the ceremony, like you're going to bed ceremony or you're getting rid of things ceremony. So by setting yourself these structures or these habits, which will compound over time, it's like you actually can create a ceremony for everything.
So profound, but what I think just happened. Um, it reminds me of any Yoda fans out there? Any Yoda fans? Yoda said, I think it was, first we must unlearn what we have learned. What's interesting is when we're in the medicine and we're at the retreat, a lot of the work is done for us because the medicine takes us through the process. The medicine forces the purge and maybe a burp here and there. But when we get home, I think the perception that integration is difficult is that it's not being done for us anymore. We have to do it for ourselves, right? So what's interesting is how much we forgot about this process, and one of them would be purging. So, Greer brought up this idea of having a dumpster and purging things, and that's pretty much the value and premise of minimalism. But we can do that with the people in our lives. So I was thinking about when I came home my first time and I had that first perception, just like you, that life settled back in and things started to get difficult and confusing again. And I remember I was like, I think I got to go on another trip, and I went on through that. It's probably because I just allowed everything that didn't apply back in my life. So interesting concept to carry on through the rest of this year and next year is to not only look for something, but take careful observation ceremoniously of what no longer applies. Billy?
That also goes to the P, like an Arcana P of prune, and pruning. For example, if you prune a rose bush, is the example that I give. But if you prune a rose bush, you need to be mindful for careful observation of where you cut, because you don't want to kill the bush. So pay attention But if you prune it in the right places, then you'll actually encourage growth and um, you'll bloom more beautifully. So that's a cool thing. And maybe we should invite everybody to do that, to find something or someone or just that they can prune, cleanse, clean, which is minimalism, right?
That was why I got rid of the lenses in my glasses because I just didn't want to have anybody on the outside telling me what to see. Um, who else? Who else? I saw just a big smile from you, Corey. Come on, what is that about? And then we'll go to
Well, okay. Um, I was just when Billy was talking about, cutting off, purging and I've been on a journey for many years, but just starting in the beginning of 24, late 2023, I um started reading a book called A Course in Miracles, and that helped to help me unlearn a lot of things. And then I went to Bali and studied to become a yoga teacher, and then went to Arkana, in that pretty much in that order. And I've come back to wondering, some of the choices that I've made in my career and things like that were all fear-based and maybe an ego-based. And now I'm questioning everything. And then what do I purge? I've seen the relationships and the things that came out of my life just by things that happened and that I had no control over, that I had literally had to let it go. But I want, I'm now on this, who am I really? And not that I didn't like didn't like who I was, but I had no identity. I was, I grew up being told who I was and what I should do and where I should go and the life I should live. And that was very, I think, just so embedded in me. And I'm still working through that. So I'm ready to purge, but I'm still in the discovery phase of exactly what it is I need to, if
mm,
that makes sense. I like that Billy said that, don't don't uh don't cut everything off. So
well, that would be the careful observation, right, Billy?
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and just from my standpoint, as somebody that's done this for a long time and also help people do this, you don't have to
Mhm.
rush through that process, right? Another thing that I got from when Greer was speaking is like this idea that living ceremoniously in the integration process has like some sort of a finish line rather than just a lifelong commitment of how you're going to live, Um,
Mhm.
that's the way you'll notice the facilitators like Billy, Valeria, and all of these amazing people there are the same as us. They're just there more often. So it's always
Mhm.
interesting to watch how they live. And they
You
live
know,
a lot more present moment than we do. We spend a lot of time in the future and the past. And when you ask Billy a question, he typically doesn't have an answer right away. So that's an interesting observation. And maybe we don't have to have an answer right away. Right?
that that's actually a really interesting point because the more patient you are, so the more present you are, silent and still you become, the more inspired you will be because you'll harmonize with cosmic
Mm.
intelligence in the present, which only exists in the present moment. So actually, our minds are always racing and running, but the more patient you become, the more present you become, the more inspired you'll be, and the more clarity will come also. So you can. It's like from nothing comes everything. It's Shiva Shakti, right? It's from nothing comes everything. So that the more you actually do nothing, the more you'll enter the space of everything, all the inspiration and insight that you need. So Be patient with yourself. Valeria's guru
Yeah.
says, all you have is time. Because when you don't have time, your time's gone and you're not here. So all you have is time. Be patient.
I heard somebody once say that no thing is still a thing. It's just a thing that's free from other things. Neil and Rachel, love when I see the couple sitting on the couch together. It's great.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, JC, I really like what you said about ceremony being awareness. And, to me, I definitely see that like when when you're really aware and really conscious about the thing you're doing, I think anything then can turn into a ceremony because you're doing it with a complete reverence and acceptance of it. And, to add to that as well, with what you said, to me, it's also just kind of being in awe of the creation aspect of what you're doing. I mean, I was just thinking about this, like Sapo, right? There's a toad that evolved over millions of years to provide us with this medicine that opens our heart and our mind, and and then we've ritualized that within the ceremony. And yesterday, Rachel and I, we had a cacao ceremony that we usually do every once in a while. And I was just thinking, wow, there was this plant that evolved over millions of years to provide a bean that is processed to make this cacao for us to enjoy, and also kind of build a closer bond. And so to me, ceremony is also just always being in awe of the creation of what's happened and what we're doing. And to me, that's why everything can be a ceremony, because you can go around life and just see things and just be in awe of it, and just like the act of touching it or being near it or just looking at it with like this sense of love and reverence feels like a ceremony. So that was kind of my observation of what you said.
I love that. If everybody here, when they were children, before our programmers taught us the rules and we started to like look at things through other people's lenses, we looked at everything with wonder and awe. That's why we said, "What's that? Why? 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 Why?" And that would be the goal. That would be another careful observation would be what actually is, and that's what gratitude is. Living. I think the more time you can spend in the present moment, the more time you did a ceremony yesterday, and it was focused and it had intention and it was beautiful. So the idea would be to live life that way all the time. But then the other question is that really the goal, or do we need to live out of ceremony to appreciate living in ceremony as well? I mean, it's all good at the end of the day. What is your take on that, Billy? Like, is the goal to always live in the present moment? And if you lived outside the present moment, it's the only reason you'd know that you're in the present moment, right?
That's a very interesting
Did you just
philosophical.
have some gray matter ooze out of your ear there?
That's a very interesting philosophical conversation that I'd really have to think about, because that's very expansive. But while I'm here, what I would like to say, because Lex just turned up, talking of integration and ceremony. Lex, you should turn your camera on so everybody can see you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So Lex, I like we were talking obviously after Arkana, because about integration and stuff, and she had a few challenges. And now she's just qualified and went through her graduation ceremony of becoming a qualified yoga teacher. So congratulations, Lex, because
You
that's
Billy.
integration. It's beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Would you like to talk about your integration process and the process you've been on?
Yeah, to be honest, I think this yoga journey brought up a lot with my integration process. It was every other weekend for over 4 months, and yeah, we would start with about a 90-minute practice and end with a 90-minute practice. And it was all day long with lectures of philosophy and anatomy and all this stuff. But the real like kicker was just getting into my body. And when I would go into my body, realizing that there was different layers that were uncovering that I thought were previously healed when I was in the jungle, that I still have to work on, and traumas that are kind of uncovering and little hints here and there. But it's just taught me to be way more graceful with myself, because like you can go into a yoga practice like, feeling really good, having a good outfit on and excited, and then all of a sudden like you do some hip exercise and bam, like I'm back in my trauma. And you just have to feel the grace of going like through the ebbs and flows of grief and my trauma. And it was incredibly difficult. And there was definitely a time where I kind of I wanted to quit, the same way that I felt like I couldn't continue on in the jungle. And I persevered and I got through it. And to be honest, like the other side, I killed it. Like my last teach out practice, like I fully embodied the spirit and my teacher Rachel, and it was incredibly graceful and ease, like it was easeful, and it was just beautiful to watch myself in the same light, like at Arkana, like I was going through such a hard 2 weeks, and then like the last night it just like all clicked. And it was a celebratory kind of night for me. And yeah, that's exactly how it felt in yoga. And it's like I didn't do any medicine ceremonies. I was just being in my body. I was trying to be present with my breath. And also if you want to see this, guys, whoever went to Arkana knows that the slogan of Arkana is enjoy your breath. And I got a hi Seiji. I got a a custom mat, and here we go. This is the yes, hi Seiji. This is at the end of my yoga mat. I put enjoy your breath, so I can always have a little piece of Arkana whenever I'm practicing my yoga. So just yeah.
Do you know, I don't know if you know that this topic is about ceremony because you've come at the point
No,
you did.
I literally just woke up and I just saw on Instagram, so I just came in. So
It's like you're on the wavelength because you made such a poignant point which correlates as well to what Swati was saying, which is the ceremonies you went through were very difficult. Like plant medicine ceremony is not always easy. You have to purge, like Greer's doing with physical things. It has a structure like we can create to make it the ceremony. But you go through these ups and downs when working with these medicines, and but you come out the other side if you work through it. You come out the other side feeling how you felt, which is the beauty and the abundance and the love. And I think that's like a beautiful way to look at this also, taking all of this in. Is like the ceremonies and the ceremony of life is up and down. But when you make it through with discipline, with dedication, with reverence, with respect, with gratitude, with you make it through and you return to love. And that's the ceremony of life.
I love that idea of making it through. And I think the goal would be to just remember, isn't it funny how, Lexi just gave an example of how it's typically we just forgot, the familiarity of what you were going through there. When you were in the trauma, you forgot, oh, I've been through times that I didn't think I can get through before, and that worked out well for me. So that's going to happen again with all of us, and I think it has everything to do. Living ceremoniously would be taking careful observation, giving yourself space to recognize something familiar. And that would help us potentially change the way we look at it, thus change the way that things look. Um, we've got 3 minutes left, Billy. Billy, is there any upcoming news, information, anything that people want to know about coaching and all of that stuff before we close out?
Yes. And I just got told off by a guest because I'm in a hotel sat in the corridor. So I just came down, so you won't be able to see my face. But so I just want to say that Jose and Valeria were meant to be here. Valeria was doing yoga, and Jose was working on the website, which he's trying to get done by the new year. So, but there are going to be two. He asked me to share that there's going to be two reunion retreats that we do this coming year, which we're going to post. That they're almost ready, and they're going to be like the Arkana schedule, but a variation of the schedule. So it will have like different activities and stuff, which differently. But so there'll be two retreats, and they'll only be for previous Arkana guests. So they're reunion retreats basically. One is in April, and the other one is August. There's going to be one in the Amazon and one in the Sacred Valley. They're going to be beautiful. So that is up and coming. Costa Rica is going to take like 3 years to build, but eventually that will be up and coming. There'll be a new website, and that's it. I would personally just like to say, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holidays, and use it as an opportunity to set your intention for the new year, and then commit and discipline yourself, harmonize with who you want to be, and have a beautiful new year ahead. And I'm sure I'll probably see a number of you this coming year.
Beautiful. Happy holidays to everybody. I have a closing wrap-up statement. And just as a reminder, Billy's going to post this on the website, and I have much more of my notes and stuff. Maybe you'll find that in the blog or something. Just a closing thought, and then we'll say goodbye for now. Plant medicine, which we've been talking about, opens our eyes to the extraordinary within us and around us in the present moment. That's what plant medicine does. It has a tendency of doing. Free from the programmed nature of our minds to attempt defining reality through the past of the future. That's what our program minds are doing. They're making an attempt to define reality through our past and our future. So forgive yourself for that. So the two places where reality doesn't exist are the past and the future, right? The only place is in the now. So the invitation to carry this way of seeing our everyday lives, would be to live in the present moment and live it ceremoniously, full of insight. This would be the value, full of insight, connection, and hypothetically truth. Because when we observe life carefully, we realize that it's the present moment of life that is the medicine. Those are my thoughts. Love and appreciate you. I want to thank Jose, Billy, Valeria, everybody that always comments. We've done this for almost a year. This is pretty cool.
I want to say it as well, JC, sorry, really quickly, is thank you to you as well. Because really, this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying thank you. That makes me feel very good about myself. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This wouldn't exist if any element is like an episode of Friends. You can't get rid of any of you to make it a good thing. So love and appreciate you all. You'll probably see advertisements for this coming up in January. And just keep your finger on the pulse of each other. I love hearing that people are reaching out and becoming, running mates through life and things like that. The Arkana Facebook page is great. I mean, I can see that Arkana has completely leveled up their social media and their website. I mean, like, wow, really, really good stuff. But let's all stick together. But at the same time, not have this unfair advantage that we have to live this full life be something we keep to ourselves. So let's also allow other people to have access to even a community like this, and naturally the great stuff that's happening with Arkana. So love and appreciate you. Congratulations on your yoga certification, and have a wonderful, wonderful holidays, and we'll see you in the new year. Bye-bye, everybody.